Welcome to Semiconductor News Decoded. I'm Ty, with 31 years inside the semiconductor industry, bringing you the real view from the factory floor. Today's topic, Okayama University's Semiconductor Talent Development Initiative and their push to cultivate engineers who can see the full supply chain picture. I'll share both what's promising about this direction and what I think the industry actually needs. As always, I'll explain everything in the most simplified way possible. Even a middle schooler should be able to follow along. If you're a specialist watching, some parts may feel oversimplified, but I'd like to prioritize giving everyone the big picture first. Today's analogy, a culinary school in a small town, and what it really takes to train a great chef. So sit back and enjoy. Let's imagine a culinary school in a town called Okayama. This school has a great reputation. Every year, they send hundreds of new chefs out into the community. Last year alone, over 400 students enrolled in their cooking programs. The school is seen as the backbone of the local food scene, a genuinely important institution. This year, the school unveiled a bold new teaching philosophy. Let's train chefs who understand the entire flow of a restaurant. That means understanding every step, sourcing the ingredients, prepping them, cooking, plating, and doing a final quality check before the dish goes out to the customer. The goal is for every graduate to have a complete picture of how a restaurant runs from start to finish. Why does that matter? Imagine a chef who only knows how to handle the grilling station. One day, the kitchen switches to a different cut of meat. If this chef doesn't know why the change was made or how it affects the plating at the end, they won't adapt well. But a chef who understands the whole flow thinks, the sourcing changed, so I need to adjust my technique. That bigger picture awareness is exactly what makes someone valuable. But here's a risk worth thinking about. What if the school pushes "understand the whole restaurant" as a slogan, without making sure students can actually cook? Students learn to talk fluently about sourcing, prep, cooking, and plating, but when it comes down to it, none of them can actually put a proper dish together. You end up training food critics, not chefs. So what does a truly great chef look like? It's someone who has mastered at least one station, deeply. Someone who can say, when it comes to grilling, I don't cut corners. I know exactly when things go wrong, and I know exactly how to guarantee the result every time. That kind of core expertise, one thing they've truly owned, is the foundation everything else builds on. Let me summarize the cooking school's stance. The best chefs have a deep core skill in one area, and on top of that, they understand where their work fits into the bigger picture of the whole restaurant. They know the sourcing side. They know the quality check at the end. It's the combination, deep expertise plus broad awareness, that makes someone irreplaceable. That's the profile every great kitchen is looking for. And honestly, my current position on semiconductor talent development is almost exactly the same as this cooking school story. A supply chain overview sounds great, but without a technical core to anchor it, it risks becoming hollow. Let me now walk you through what's actually happening at Okayama University and what I think about it. Here's where the real story begins. Okayama University recently held the 2026 General Assembly of the Okayama Semiconductor Research and Education Promotion Committee. This committee was established to lead semiconductor research and education in the Okayama region. Its predecessor organization launched in 2023, meaning this initiative has now been actively running for 3 years. At the assembly, Professor Kenji Tsuruta of Okayama University was appointed as the inaugural chairperson, and Professor Nobuyuki Kasa of Okayama University of Science was named inaugural vice chairperson. The assembly also reported that over 400 students enrolled in semiconductor-related courses during the past year alone. Regional efforts to develop semiconductor talent are clearly taking shape. The headline from the assembly was the stated mission: to develop highly skilled engineers capable of understanding the semiconductor supply chain as a whole. In practical terms, that means design, manufacturing, equipment, materials, inspection, packaging, and quality assurance, the full breadth of what goes into making a chip. This maps directly onto the cooking school analogy. Know the whole flow, not just your own station. One key difference there: in the cooking school, everything happened inside one restaurant. In semiconductors, the supply chain spans multiple companies and multiple countries. The scale is completely different, but the underlying principle, see the whole flow, is exactly the same. The assembly also reported collaboration with MEXT's NSET Semiconductor Talent Development Program for the Chugoku-Shikoku region, as well as ties with the Setochi Semiconductor Consortium. This isn't a single university acting alone. It's a coordinated effort between national government programs and regional industry players, a broader ecosystem building around semiconductor talent. Here's my take. The goal of cultivating engineers who can see the full supply chain is absolutely the right direction. But from my experience on the factory floor, a compelling slogan isn't enough. Understand the supply chain only lands if there's a technical core underneath it. Just like in the cooking school story, the big picture matters, but only once you've mastered something deeply first. A concrete example. Imagine a student researching SiC, silicon carbide. If that student doesn't just understand their own material, but also knows the wafer supply situation, the defect mechanisms that arise, how those defects affect yield, and even what automotive qualification looks like, that person is genuinely powerful. They have one deep area of expertise, and they understand how it connects to the larger supply chain. That's the profile I'd want to hire. So rather than an engineer who can oversee the supply chain, I'd describe the ideal as a technical specialist who also carries supply chain awareness. The technical expertise comes first. The supply chain awareness builds on top of it. That ordering and nuance makes a real difference in how this gets taught, and in how useful the graduates actually are on the factory floor. This matters for Japan's semiconductor industry as a whole. Japan has deep strengths across individual segments, materials, equipment, manufacturing process. That's precisely why engineers who master their own domain and also understand the adjacent steps become so valuable. Initiatives like Okayama's, where an entire region comes together, are building exactly the kind of talent base Japan needs to make those cross-segment connections stronger. One more thing I want to highlight, and I mean this genuinely, is simply that more people want to learn semiconductor. Those 400 participants include not just students, but working professionals coming back to learn, and even senior citizens. The interest is real, and it spans generations. When I look back at the semiconductor industry around 2010, there was a palpable sense of decline. The mood was heavy. Compared to that era, seeing this many people excited about semiconductors is something I'm truly grateful for. Let me pull it all together. Okayama University held the 2026 General Assembly of the Okayama Semiconductor Research and Education Promotion Committee, appointing Professor Tsuruta as chair and Professor Kasa as vice chair. Over 400 students enrolled in related courses last year. The initiative links with MEXT's NSET Chugoku-Shikoku program and the Setochi Semiconductor Consortium. The mission? Cultivate engineers with a comprehensive view of the semiconductor supply chain. My position? Deep technical expertise must come first, and that technical core needs to carry supply chain awareness alongside it, in that order. To wrap up, developing engineers who can see the full supply chain is a forward-looking and genuinely meaningful initiative that fits where the semiconductor industry is heading. But on the ground, the big picture only becomes useful when it's backed by a real technical core. The SiC example captures the ideal, someone who has gone deep in one area and, on top of that, understands the supply chain. That's the target. And above all, the fact that people of all ages and backgrounds are choosing to engage with semiconductors is something the industry should truly celebrate. Regional efforts like Okayama's are building the human infrastructure that will carry Japan's semiconductor industry forward, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. That's all for today. I'll keep bringing you semiconductor news and analysis, so if you found this useful, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. This has been Ty on Semiconductor News Decoded.